What's up? How y'all doing? It's Jared. It's going to be the second part of the Q&A video and giveaway drawing. Good for the giveaway sponsored by We'd Be Knives on Pier 39 in San Francisco. So we'll get right into it. Got my questions written down here. What knife did you take the biggest bath on? And I love that question. I think it's hilarious. And it's this 162 1501. It's a limited edition bushcrafter from Benchmade, 162 bushcrafter from Benchmade. And I saw it in the store. The guy didn't want to sell it. He wanted it. He was going to keep it for himself. And this was a different store. This was a dealer in Oakland. And he was going to keep it. You know what I mean? He liked knives. And I kind of talked him out of it. I wound up paying about $270 for that knife. So when you could purchase it and you could actually buy it online, it didn't go for maybe, it went like $10 more than the general 162 bushcrafter. So it's right around the $200 mark. And I overpaid for it willingly just because I wanted it. Funny story actually on that one was I went into another store that was in Hayward, California, and they had one. This is number 156 out of 400. They had number 49 out of 400, and they didn't have the price marked up. I almost bought it at the time, but I thought that would just be stupid because I just purchased this one, so I didn't actually buy number 49. I got number 156. So I consider that the knife that I took the biggest bath on. But do you prefer heft or lightweight when you're purchasing a knife? And I prefer heft. And it's for a couple reasons. But it's not necessarily just the weight. I don't actually prefer the weight. But with weight comes more material. Generally with a knife that isn't lined or something like, really light, small knives here. This Manic's too lightweight, right? Maximet. It flexes. I can feel it squeeze. I can squeeze the handles together, and I can feel it flexing and moving. It's just not nearly as rigid. I cut a lot of vines. I cut a lot of wood, and so when you cut a vine back, you can actually feel the jolt. Right? There's that little bit of cut when you actually go through the material itself. If it's thick enough. If it's burly enough material. Sometimes you don't even feel it if your blade's sharp enough. It doesn't even feel like you're going through anything. But regardless, sorry. I can feel it move in my hand, and I can feel it crink. And when you have the steel liners or titanium liners, something like that, it doesn't do that. It's more of a rigid frame, and it's not actually necessary as far as most cutting use goes, but I just prefer that. It makes me feel better knowing that I have more metal in my hand. Do I prefer the Paragon Warlock or the Paragon Phoenix from Asheville Steel? And that was actually asked in the last video, and I kind of abandoned it because I didn't really know what to say. And I thought a lot about that, honestly. And I would have to say, it's a long, kind of strange answer. My favorite is the Phoenix, right? If I could only pick one, I would pick the Phoenix. But I think the Warlock is a better knife because it has the advantage of being double-edged. I think the Warlock platform is the best way to carry a double-edged folding knife. You can carry a balisong with a double edge, but opening it requires extra technique. You've got things like OTFs and automatic knives that do enable you to carry a double-edged dagger blade. But generally they're illegal. You run into the legality issues. You run into the size issues because there's always a size constraint in the actual design itself. I just had a misfire. I'm going to be honest, that's cool. That's the first misfire that I've ever had with this. This is a Microtech Ultratech Tri-Grip bead blast with a bayonet blade. It did it again. Alright, I got to get back into... But you run into the size restraints. It's always more of a thinner blade. It's always going to be a smaller blade opposed to the actual ratio to the handle with something like a double action OTF. And so it's just easier and much simpler to carry a dagger in the Warlock platform. And that's kind of revolutionary. When he came up with that, Robert at Paragon, when he came up with that, he really kind of came up with something that hadn't ever been done before. So I think the Warlock actually has a little bit of it has a standing in the knife industry as far as I see it that the Phoenix doesn't, but I like the Phoenix more. What knife do I wish that I could have but don't have the means to get? And that's everything over my budget. Everything over about a $600 budget, knife budget, everything. I want all of them. I very rarely see a knife that I'm not interested in. There's something about them that always intrigues me, even if I don't purchase it, there's something about the design or something about it that I'm generally attracted to. Not all knives, there are some things that are just like, what the crap, you know. But I can't actually give a specific knife on that one. What would my ideal fighting knife be? Double-edged Bowie knife? Something like this Cold Steel, this is a Cold Steel Marauder. Something like this with a little bit thicker blade stock, possibly, carbon steel, same thickness, but in a carbon steel instead of the stainless, and a sharpened swedge. I would want a sharpened swedge, hollow grind, a lot like this with obviously more rigid handle than this rubber here, but something a lot like that, because that's just an excellent fighting knife. Mean bastard pirate knife, I swear by that. Favorite flipper, and that was actually in my other video as well, but I don't know if you were referring to flippers as far as the knife or actually balisongs. I answered it with balisongs, but my favorite flipper, I'm going to have to say right now, is going to be the ZT-0452CF. I freaking love this thing. It just feels so good in my hand. It locks itself in there. It is really lightweight, but at the same time, it's got that titanium and the carbon fiber. It's just, this is an oohing knife. Ooh, titanium liner lock, carbon fiber, S35VN steel. You know what I mean? This is just a excellent fondling knife. I'm a really big fan of it. So that's my favorite flipper. Talk about a flipper tab. What do I like so much about Benchmade? And Benchmade really comes down to the good old boy syndrome. A lot of knife companies out there, not all, but they focus on what's new. They try to come up with new designs, and they experiment with their steels, and they have a larger range in actual production, right? Spyderco's an excellent company, right? But if you look at the amount of knives they produce, Spyderco's catalog runs something, it's like 700 knives, you know what I mean? They make a lot of different products, and it goes along the entire price range. I mean, Spyderco makes knives in the $25 range, $5 range, all the way up to $300-400, something you would consider a mid-tech. Benchmade doesn't really do that. They did, but they've kind of gotten away, and they focus on a specific part of the market. They don't really focus on too high the gold class. They do make a lot of gold class knives, but it's not one of their main focuses. They really do focus on the military and civilian aspect of it, but in the higher end knives, and they use what has been proven. They don't do a whole lot of experimenting. Benchmade takes what others have had really a lot of success with and just runs and improves upon that, or just makes their own design upon that. That's my experience. I don't actually know. Obviously, I've never consorted with Benchmade, but that's what I see in the market, and I like that good old boy, use what you know works, and they're just really, I think that's actually what attracts me most to the Benchmade company itself. What is your most and least favorite knife purchase? My most favorite knife purchase, guess what, is this 162 Bushcrafter. I thought about it for a really long time, and I overpaid for this knife. I would do it again. I would pay another $100 for this knife. If I wasn't able to go get the other one, I would pay $350 for this knife. I would pay a lot for this. I absolutely love the fact that I got one of these. There's only 400 of them made. That's going to be my favorite knife purchase, 162 1501. My least favorite knife purchase is this Condor Tolosa commemorative fixed blade. And I bought this because of the story behind it. Samuel Tolosa is a badass, you know what I mean? He's done some amazing things. And they made they gave him a commemorative knife. And I don't like this thing. It weighs like a pound. It doesn't handle right. You can see the secondary bevel there is huge. I had to reprofile it. I reprofiled it to 40 degrees, and it's like a 1/4 inch edge bevel. That's how wide it was behind the actual cutting edge. it's just a horribly made knife. The grinds aren't consistent. The grinds are both meeting up at different angles. I just don't. And I overpaid. I think I paid like $90 for that thing. You can get it for like $45 online. So that's probably my least favorite knife purchase that I've made. I am still happy that I have it just because it's the commemorative knife. You know, it does have a good story behind it. I will give it that. What matters most other than toughness when I'm purchasing a knife? And that is, toughness is important to me, but overall feeling about the knife is more important. I won't dismiss a knife if it can't take a beating. You know, something that's lighter in use, I don't know, but something that's not necessarily designed to be beaten. This is a 484 Nakamura. This one came up in my last one as well, but I really love this knife. And this is a gentleman's folder. It's not designed to do anything tough. It's not designed to do anything hard, but I paid $200 for it. And so it's not just toughness. It's how attracted I am to the actual knife itself is the main thing. Toughness may attract me, the aesthetics may attract me, the materials may attract me, the design may attract me, the mechanism may, you know, there's a whole mess of things. And if it's good enough, I'll buy it. So toughness is important to me though, especially in knives that I use. If I'm going to use it, if I'm going to carry it, and I'm going to put it in my pocket and carry it day to day, toughness is extremely important to me. Have I ever bought a knife on looks alone? And I would feel like I would be lying if I said no. But I can't actually think of anything that I have bought on looks alone. But I think that comes to forming an emotional bond later with the actual knives. But the best way to sharpen a knife, don't ever let it go dull. Keep it sharp. What do I think about master cutlery? I was going to do some research before I actually started filming this because I have no idea who master cutlery is. What's the best blade for the mini griptilian, the standard blade or the sheep's foot? The mini griptilian falls into a class where it really is just a utility tool. It's just an EDC slicing implement to me. I wouldn't consider that a carving knife. I wouldn't consider that anything you're going to want to do harder tasks with, anything in the self-defense aspect. It's really just not suited for that. And with that, the normal blade is more suited towards the bigger knife. And the sheep's foot with the hollow grind is going to give a better slicing ability. It's going to, go through material better, and it does have a decently, little pointy tip on it. So it's still going to penetrate into a box easily. You're going to, go into material and not have any resistance. So I think the sheep's foot is actually going to be a better blade for the mini griptilian. That's not the case with the full size. The full size, I would switch that the other way around, and I would say the standard blade over the hollow grind. Do I own any Browse blades? I do not, actually. I would love to. That's something I'm going to get into. Would tungsten make a good blade steel, disregarding the difficulties of actually sharpening it? And I'm not a metallurgist, but yes, I want to say yes, because tungsten is an extraordinarily hard material, right? And so if you were actually able to get a good edge bevel on it, you get a thin ground edge bevel, something, 35 degrees, 30 degrees thinner behind the actual edge, if you actually were able to do that, I think it would perform very well with a coarse edge. I was thinking about it. Because it is so hard, you would probably run into a problem with microchipping. Even though it is tungsten, it would take longer, but you would run into problems with losing material off the edge through cutting, especially harder tasks. And so with a rougher edge, you get it to an inclusive edge at about 400 grit, something like that. 400, 600 grit, in that range. And I think it would actually perform extraordinarily well. As far as I would think, it would be up there with like the ceramic blades. Ceramic folders and such like that hold an edge forever. It would probably fall into that category. I think it would make an excellent blade material, and it'd be tough as shit too. You could beat the crap out of it, and hang weight on it, and it just wouldn't break. Do I play video games? Do I play video games with any subscribers? I don't actually play games. I don't own a gaming system at all. There isn't one in my house. My roommate just moved out. He used to have a bunch of handheld systems, but right now I don't. The last video game I did play was Halo 1. I loved the shit out of that game in high school. That was like the thing that I wanted to do. I wanted to go home and play Halo. I didn't actually own an Xbox. My buddy did. My buddy Garrett did back in the day. And I really loved that game. I played Zelda Ocarina of Time. I was really into that one. There's a couple other games I played back in the day, but recently I just don't have the time to sit down and actually learn how to do it. Yeah, I don't really play them. Can I do a Dick Chaplin with my 51? No. But I was thinking about that question, and if I was ever going to try to learn, the 51 would probably be the knife that I did try to learn that with, if it wasn't the 32, but I don't think the 32 is big enough. So I would get a 51, and yeah, because you want that lightweight, you're trying something like that. What would I do with a Delica 5 if I could design a Delica 5? The biggest problem with me and the Delica 4 or the Delica series itself is a lack of stopping protection. There isn't enough grip on this knife coming into material. You've got a really good ramp here in the back with that jimping, that legendary Spyderco jimping that's fantastic, but there's nothing in the front here. And this slope design still leads to a ramping effect because this is so thin behind that actual ramp here that my index finger has so much room to move. It's got so much room to expand that there isn't a lot of stopping potential in this actual forward section of the grip. So I would extend this. Take this a little bit further down and extend this actually to a 90-degree angle. Instead of coming off, it's sitting at probably like, 75 degrees, something like that. I would bring it all the way up to a 90-degree angle with the actual knife and raise it a little bit. And as well, I would keep this thickness. I like the thickness in the back. That feels good, but I would keep the thickness through the blade. I wouldn't taper the interior nearly as much. I would get rid of this indentation in the finger choil, make that thicker, and then bring up an actual guard to give a little bit more stopping potential. Other than that, I really wouldn't change too much about it. I would keep the liners. I may mill them out a little bit more. They are drilled out, but not quite enough. Skeletonize the frame a little bit more. I would keep the VG10. I'm a big fan of what Spyderco does with their VG10, especially for the price point. The Delica, there's a reason the Delica is as big of a seller as it is. It's their bread and butter. There's a reason for it. I mean, you're getting a lot for your money. And to keep that price point low, I would definitely stick with the VG10. Yeah, that's probably it. Just a little bit better stopping potential, and I would make it bigger, fatter, more hand-filling. And I want to say this, Cutlery 62, I didn't write down names. If I didn't answer your questions, I apologize. I am thinking about you. Yeah, I apologize if I didn't actually get your question in here. I'm going to bring you down to the floor, though. Let's do this drawing. Kaiser Nomad. This is a Kaiser Nomad sponsored by Weeby Knives on Pier 39 in San Francisco. And as well, actually on that note, I've got another drawing. I wound up having a extra blue box in-house, so I'm going to be doing a drawing for the blue box as well. Second drawing is going to be getting a Benchmade blue box. So I'm going to bring you down to the floor. We're in a briefcase this time. I'm not going to stab into the ground because the last time I stabbed with my knives, I left the new knives in the boxes. I stabbed actually with my knives, and I don't want to stab this knife into the floor. So it's brand new. I don't want to mess it up. Make sure nothing got up in here. And we're going to go with Ripjaw 0088 R6 Crew. Ripjaw 0088 R6 CREW. Ignore the little splotch. Go to my YouTube or go to my channel or my YouTube channel. go to the About Me section, send me a message with all of your information, your actual name, and your shipping address. I'll send a confirmation and we'll get that one mailed out to you. And as well, please go find a way to contact the guys at Pier 39 on, Weeby Knives at Pier 39 in San Francisco. Find a way to contact them because this knife is actually coming from them. That's pretty dope. Second drawing, this is going to be for the Benchmade Blue Box. Stationary transit. I'm pretty sure that's what that says. Stationary transit. Same thing. Get on my YouTube channel. Go to the About Me section. Send me a private message. Go find the private message icon. Send me a private message. All your information, your actual legitimate name, we'll get that shipped out to you. Hell yeah, that's good stuff. I hope it's like crazy. Congratulations to the winners. Ripjaw 0088. If you were born in 1988, and that's where that comes from, I was born in 1987. So hell yeah with that one. That's all I got to really say about this one. Y'all have a good one. My next video, if you're interested, is going to be a disassembly, and it did it again. It did it again. I'm about to disassemble this and make a video, so if you're interested, get to see what the hell is going on with this Ultratech. Yeah, y'all have a good one.